The Trump administration is now politicizing national intelligence. Two sources tell NBC News that Joe Kent, Chief of Staff, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, urged analysts to revise an assessment of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua after it came to light that the assessment contradicted public statements from Donald Trump. Specifically, the report undercuts Trump's justification for sending immigrants to that notorious Salvadoran prison without due process. Because of that, Joe Kent pushed the analysts to make changes to protect his boss and the president from being attacked. Kent wrote in an email, quote, "We need to do some rewriting so this document is not used against the DNI or POTUS." Joining us now, Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona.
Senator, let's just cut right to the quick on this. What does it say to you, and what should Americans understand about what's happening right now in our intelligence community when you have this type of sort of, cleansing and trying to make it just right so Donald Trump don't get mad or, doesn't look embarrassed?
What this matters to you is this is dangerous, right? Because we need intelligence that is refined and unbiased, because then we can make assessments, real assessments about the national security situation in our country and abroad. Now, when you have some political appointees that are using this to have some political goals or to just take care of their president, what does it really mean? It means that we may not getting a real picture of what security looks like. Secondarily, it shows that this administration is failing when it comes to deportations. They need to come up with these bogus reasons to create a scenario in order for them to basically cut through due process to be able to get some of these people out of this country as fast as possible so they could just boost up their numbers. Either way, we are all unsafe, and we are less safe because of what they're doing. Because at this point also, you're going to have a lot of our allies that rely on our intelligence infrastructure, questioning whether we are actually giving them direct information that is adequate, that is accurate, and is actionable, or are we just giving them political information that's just designed to make the boss happy?
Joe Kent is currently under consideration to be the National Counterterrorism Center head. He's going to lead that, and that is a Senate-confirmed position. The Vice Chair, Mark Warner, of the Senate Intelligence Committee, put out a statement yesterday that says the Senate should immediately halt consideration of Mr. Kent's nomination to lead that agency. I would agree with the senator, but I would also add on top of that, why would any Democratic senator consider any of the folks being put up from this administration, given what the administration is currently doing? The one tool you do have is your vote on these folks that come before the body of the Senate.
Well, certainly there's, in some areas, I've also done the same. I've put some hold on some appointees, specifically around the VA, because they're not explaining to us where they're going to cut these 83,000. How's that going to affect services? What does that look like in terms of the amount of people that we need to join? In some areas, exactly, for example, Arizona, we are a state that is 65% federal land. We need to be able to work with somebody at the administration. So every senator is going to have to decide that. But there are some egregious examples, such as this, such as what I've been dealing with on the VA, where we need to use our Senate power in the right way to make sure that we are bringing not a political end, but a real solution to our constituents, who right now are very worried. In the VA community, the veterans, the community that I'm a part of, we're worried that they're going to have massive cuts. It's going to cause delays, people not being able to get appointments, people being denied benefits, and that's why we're asking, demanding information from the VA.
Putting on your Homeland Security hat today, there was, of course, a horrific murder of two young people outside the Jewish Museum here in D.C. How do you assess that as an act of terrorism?
Well, the first thing we have to think about, was this something that was planned and executed by a foreign entity? And we have to do that research to make sure that that is not the case. And was this someone that was acting on their own? Either way, this is a horrible situation. These two, to me, they're kids, and it's scary to say that, were just doing their duty to their country. They were leaving a nonprofit agency. They were targeted, not because they were Israeli employees of their version of the State Department, but because they were leaving a Jewish event. So it's clearly an anti-Semitic event, and we need to really investigate what happened there, who else was involved, if there's any involved, and prosecute to the fullest extent to make sure people know that you can't get away with that in the United States.
There's just so many pieces that you're looking at right now.
No shit. Yes. Yes.
There's so
100%,
There's
yes.
so many pieces that you're looking at, and we're just scraping the top of the disintegration of norms and processes that keep a government of our size functioning properly. And yeah, there are issues, as we all know and have learned over the years. But then when you get down to these very personal moments, and one of which I want to raise with you is what happened with the arrest of a Mississippi father at his citizenship hearing, threatening his deportation just yesterday. Casper Erickson has never been charged with or convicted of any crime. But what led the government to rip him out of the arms of his family was, to the best of his knowledge, a single document, I-751, was just one of the endless documents he needed on his decade-plus journey to American citizenship. So he is filling out the paperwork.
He's doing the right thing.
He's doing the right
Following
thing.
the law.
Yeah.
Following the law. He's exposing himself and making himself to the government for its scrutiny by filling out all his paperwork. And this administration uses that as an opportunity to go jack him out of his ICE hearing and away from his family.
Yeah, because these guys just want to prove that they're tough, and they think that brings some value. We're not being made safer by this. There are people that want to come out of the shadows and they want to do the right things, and this administration is actually just trying to push them further and further away. They feel that they have this, that the harder they are, the nastier they are, that the more that they will get support from maybe their base. But the American public is not for this. And look, I ran in a state where Trump won. We ran a very strong campaign on border and immigration reform. And what I heard the whole time, there's like, we want to control the border. We understand there's people in this country that have been here legally. Let's find a way for them to stay here. Let's find a way for some of them to become citizens. They never wanted something like this. They never said they want to see families separated. They never wanted to see a woman being torn away from her child while she's breastfed. They certainly didn't look at this and say that's a justifiable thing to do. And every time they're acting the way, more and more in this way, they're going to essentially affect their own poll numbers, because the American public is not.
So how are the folks in your state that voted for Trump, as you just said, and who wanted this issue, control our borders, lock it down?
No, they're not happy.
So you're hearing that?
Oh, yeah, they're not happy. There's a lot of regret that's happening there. Now, our initial reaction should be like, haha, I told you so. Now it's like, hey, how can we work together to stop this, right? Let's remember we have a chance to put a check on this in 2 years. And if you want to see real security that is actually humane to the people that are here in this country, let's vote correctly together in 2 years to turn back the clock about what just happened.